bro.
What's up?
What's up?
I think we're here. How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Blessings. Welcome to KID Astronaut Podcast, episode 4.
Thank you.
I've already had 3 awesome guests, and I'm excited for today. Why don't you just let me know, or let our visitors, our guests, our watchers, our viewers know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Mawule. I was born and raised in Ghana. I've been in Denver, Colorado since 2000, so it's always interesting just to talk about where I'm from, because I feel like both places are, made me who I am today. And, I pretty much grew up here all my life. Been doing music for a long time because my dad's a minister, so that's why I kind of picked up just sound and rhythm and everything, and kind of been doing that ever since then.
When did you move to Denver?
To January 7th, 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's pretty recent.
I was young. I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years old. So
Do you remember much about Ghana?
Everything.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I try to go back like at least every 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
I've gone back, and then every time I go back, just so much has changed.
Yeah.
Within that time gap.
What's like one of the biggest things that you've seen?
Development of malls.
Okay.
Yeah, development of malls in Accra. Growing up there really no one had the idea of malls,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what a mall was because we got malls here,
Right.
all around the place. So that was something that was new. Yeah, and KFC.
Okay. All right. So I actually have never been to Africa, man.
Yes.
Yeah? I mean, what do you call it as a Ghanaian? What do you refer to that land as?
My place of birth, my motherland. I think a lot of the times for me it's really interesting just talking to a lot of my friends who are African Americans and kind of wish they had a home or knew where they were from, and so it's a great dialogue that we always tend to have of like how I'm able to differentiate who I am because of where I know I came from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The culture and the religion and everything, and so it's my place of birth.
How have you seen your relationships? Not to focus on this, but
Yeah.
It has really been like I thought. Like the Black Panther movie was such a dope moment for like Black people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because it was coming from. So to me, the reason I asked that question was because I've heard that Africa was called Alkebulan, and like, have you heard about that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I heard that like the people that lived on that land had their own names for it, and like Africa is actually like a European general, like Africanus.
Okay,
it's like an Italian emperor or something.
Okay,
did you not know this?
I did not know this.
Wow. All right, so
I did not know this at all.
It kind of like confuses me because I'm really on this path, just personally, like right now. Being a Black person and identifying with that, like I'm trying to like map out my identity and like figure out what that looks like. But
I think the challenge is that so like a lot of Africans don't not necessarily trouble, because that's the wrong word to use, but a lot of Africans don't have time to really focus on really what's going on around the world. I would say now more people are, just because we're seeing how what's going on around the world is really affecting all of us. You know what I'm saying? And a great example is like when I came here and when I moved here, I didn't know who Martin Luther King was.
Really? Wow.
He's not a part of
your narratives.
Our narrative.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Also because there's like tons of Ghanaian leaders that I haven't heard of, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So.
And so it's like
that's shaped your whole life. Like Martin Luther King shaped my life.
Your whole life, And so when I came here, I'm like,
crazy.
Oh wow. This was like a tremendous leader that did a lot for African Americans here. And then I started learning about the history of him and then the civil rights movement and all that here. But in Ghana, history is different there.
Right.
The history is more of like British colonization and, how current issues are still being resolved within the continent, within the countries within the continent itself. And so that's what a lot of the people know. A lot of people don't know about till you start learning about the history and how it all intertwines. Ghanaians don't grow up there learning what the history is here.
So do you think that's important to know, or do you like I want to put together an event, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this,
Yeah.
in 2020 through 2025,
Okay.
called Diaspora.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that event is to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I saw something today.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen more people start doing this,
Mm-hmm.
but I was talking to my friend, and she's like Cuban, Colombian,
Uh-huh.
and she doesn't like reflect the same way that an African American would
Mm-hmm.
either.
Mm-hmm.
Even though our stories kind of like mirror each other
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
it's just interesting. There's like gonna be a lot of conversations that.
Yeah, it to answer your question, it is really important because I think a lot of our history and a lot of missing stories are explained through the history. And a great example is, I went back into 2012 and I visited the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum.
Okay.
And he was the first president of Ghana, but he was educated here and then within Germany. His famous mentor is W.E. Du Bois, E.B. Du Bois, who Kwame Nkrumah dedicated a mausoleum for him when he went back to Ghana and lived there. But within the mausoleum, you see the times where Rosa Parks, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King were all in Ghana to celebrate Ghana's independence. And so you see like that cross-cultural diaspora and then mixture, one that you would not know, I would not know if I didn't know who Martin Luther King was or Rosa Parks was. But going back and seeing that, then I was more enlightened to kind of look at who are these characters and how transformational they were to our
your leaders.
leaders and mentorship and all of that. And so like it is important for us to know the history, right? Because it does explain how much we are connected, even though there's so much water between our two nations and our two countries,
So let's talk about music, man.
Yeah.
So you have been an artist originally from like a church background, you said.
Yeah.
Is your music reflective? Like I know, like from what I've heard, you sing about a lot of different topics, but do you think that has impacted how you make music?
Yeah, it definitely has impacted how I make music, because I think, just growing up in Ghana, you're exposed to so many things, and then just coming to the United States, the issues are still the same, but just different in different ways, you know what I'm saying? Like poverty, for example. Poverty in Ghana is different from poverty here. And so for me, it adds a different element to my writing. So, yeah, I write about things that I necessarily didn't grow up with, or things that I also did experience in different fashions, different ways, and like race and identity. I write about that from the context of me as an African growing up in America, not truly seen by Africans as African American, and then also at the same time, because I've stayed here for so long, when I go back to Ghana, I'm not truly seen as an African because I have that American influence, and so race to me has like compounding factors that I think about and that I reflect about, and that it goes into my music. So that's just like one example of a topic. But I do write about the different ways that my experience can influence other people's experiences or understanding of experiences.
Yeah, how do you want people to like receive Mawule's music? Like, what do you feel people should take away?
Enlightenment.
Dope.
To be honest with you, enlightenment, because I always say like we all are the travelers of our journey, and as artists, I feel like like Nina Simone said, we have the ability to reflect the times with our music, and so I think as an artist, it's a privilege when you see it to share your story with people who can relate, and people who might be going through the same things but may not have the means to express themselves. So if your music can be an enlightenment for somebody, as an artist, I think it's your responsibility to share it.
Okay. I like that, man. I think that's a huge mantle to take on. Like, I want to enlighten people.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you? Like, what do you feel like you're getting into next?
I'm into next. So I've always had like this cognitive dissonance between my education and my music. just because. So I have, in my background is I have a bachelor's in human development and family studies, and I also have a master's degree in student affairs and higher education. So I've always been involved within the development of the human being, and now with my master's, just more of like the structure of higher ed and what it means for students. And so I've always had that dilemma where I feel like I need to dedicate 100% attention to one or the other. Okay. But as time has moved on, I've gotten to the place of understanding that I can't really separate both passions. I do love higher education and I do love my music.
How are you going to blend those?
So what I've done is I spent some time, did some research, just thinking about things that I'm reading within higher ed, what students are struggling with, and just having the knowledge and development, how the world is really shaping people, from family structures to social issues to everything. And so I developed a program called More Than Music, where I got to actually pilot it with the support of University of Denver on their campus May of last year. And it's essentially a new entertainment platform. And so imagine going to a show, but it's in an intimate show. And let's say you show up with a friend. Throughout the show, you don't sit next to that friend. I create the structure where you get to meet somebody new, and you sit with them throughout the whole show. And so I've developed a 90-minute curriculum for my show, which is where my music videos come in, where throughout the whole show, I have different questions. So like one of the first questions is, where are you from, and who are you? And so I answer that question to the audience by sharing a song that was inspired by who I am. I perform the song and I pose the question back to the audience to dialogue about it.
So what song would you perform?
Live Again.
Okay.
Because Live Again was inspired by my upbringing in Ghana, growing up around poverty, but then also not having enough for my folks to really give me what I wanted, but at the same time not having enough where I didn't feel like I was living in poverty. And so that inspired that song. And so I share that song. I share the story of like what motivated that song. I pose the question back to the audience and they talk about it. Then we bring it back and kind of move on. So it's a curriculum-based facilitated dialogue platform. And so when I piloted at DU, I took a lot of feedback, and just the feedback was positively overwhelming. To see the impact of how people value that space, to have intentional dialogue, and also to get a music performance.
What was one of the best things that you saw come out of that? Like what did you feel like someone said to you? Or
they said, so I had an international student that kind of found the program through Facebook because it was being marketed through Facebook. And after the show, they came to me and they thanked me. They were like, "Yo, I'm really excited because I felt like I met a friend today." And they said, I've been here almost a year and I've been having issues like really feeling like a part of this community, and now I just know one more person that I feel connected with within that 90 minutes that I'm going to follow up with and have coffee with, and I wouldn't have made that connection if it wasn't for this program. And so just having not only a domestic student, but like an international student from China actually just come and talk to me and share that experience, for me really made me realize what I had in my hands. And
why is that important to you?
It's important to me because growing up here, like I said, it was difficult to assimilate. I would go to school and being the African kid a lot, and I had a stronger accent at the time, and so just from that, I already felt different because people would make me feel different, And so that's why that's important to me, because I feel like everybody should feel a sense of belonging wherever they are. And there's so many factors that contribute to people feeling a sense of belonging. So if I can use my music to make people feel a sense of belonging, it's important. It's important for me to recognize the power that I have.
That's dope.
Yeah. So More Than Music is called the platform, and it's still, in the piloting stages. I've done it at DU. I've done it at Eagle Ridge Middle School.
Nice.
And they loved it, and they want me back. And so I want to develop it more, but I think I may have shared this with you before, but like my goal for the future is for me not to be the only like traveler within More Than Music. I want more artists to be a part of that. So I want to develop it to the point where I can bring more artists to help me facilitate it, and have them also be a part of it, where we can do it more of that at different universities.
Make it more.
Your story's different from my story. People can connect with your story that's different from mine, and so if we can get more artists doing that, I think it'll be powerful. So that's my long-term goal with More Than Music.
And what about you as like a single musician? Like, what goals do you have?
Goals that I have as a single musician, I want to produce. So like More Than Music is a curriculum-based program, and my music and what I produce helps me find different ways to connect, to help people connect. So like one song's on religion, one song's, like I said, is from like my upbringing, my background. One song's on the whole sexual assault, sexual harassment movement. It's an advocacy song. I put out videos. Of those stuff too. Yeah.
I'll link to that stuff.
Yeah, and so part of the videos that I do is so throughout More Than Music, I'm not always performing, but I can show visuals to help explain what the stories that I'm telling. So for me as a single artist, I just want to produce more. Cool. Produce more music that I can add to my curriculum, and expose different, not expose, but bring light to different stories. Nice. You know what I'm saying?
What kind of artists inspire you? Like, who are you? Would you be like, yeah, that's
artists that inspire me? I always go back to John Legend as like really the first artist that inspired me. And the reason why is because I think during the time when John Legend was kind of making his name within the music industry, I was trying to figure out what type of musician I wanted to be. And just like reading his story, where he came from, and some of the music that he produces, and learning the meaning behind it, because a lot of times you don't know the meaning behind the music. You might listen to something and hear something else, but then when the artist takes his time to share the background of the music and what inspired it, it's really powerful. And so I checked out one of his songs called Show Me, and just learning about the child trafficking and like what it really meant. I would never imagine that being the meaning of the song. I thought it was about a female or something, And so he inspired me to really think about how I'm writing music and what I want to serve as the purpose for my music. So he's the like one that is a go-to for me, because he was truly inspirational for my upbringing, and I loved his music, being an R&B singer, and so I gravitated to him a lot.
What's your favorite Ghanaian food? Am I saying it right?
Ghanaian food? Yeah. Okay. My favorite Ghanaian food.
I'm American, fam. I could be wrong. Learn these things.
Ghanaian food. Not to be like general, but you can't go wrong with jollof rice. Okay. That's there's a debate.
I've heard about that from like Nigeria.
Nigerian, yeah. There's a big like battle.
Nigerian versus Ghanaian. Yeah. Okay, I want to try both. Let's have it all.
Yeah, man. you got to try both. And then just the other day, I have a Senegalese friend who was talking about.
We're in this too.
Yeah, we're in this too. We're in this battle too. They're never included in the battle.
They want to be. Don't give up. Don't give up, Senegal. You got this.
So I'll say jollof rice. Okay. And then
what is that? Because I really don't know.
Jollof rice is pretty much like Spanish rice, but more flavorful. Yeah, it's marinated in tomato stew. Depending on how you cook it, there's different ways to cook it. But
and you chef it up.
I chef it up.
I know you do.
I chef it up, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so I have to make one and invite you over sometime.
Please, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm down. When I get back from the UK, I'm
down. Yeah. When you gonna be back?
So I'll be gone from January to February. Okay. Got dates like Berlin and Manchester, London, Paris, and I got some dates here in March. So.
Yeah, and London itself has a large African communities there.
That's what I hear.
It was one of the destinations during the whole trade, and so a lot of Londoners are Ghanaians and everything. And I think so. I when I went back in actually 2014, it was the first time that I had gone back in a while, and I was in the Heathrow airport, and I had a 5-hour layover to Ghana in the Heathrow airport, and the section that I was, this is the first time going back since I lived in the States. Everyone around me was speaking Ga and Tree, which is that? It's two of the main languages in Ghana. Okay. So for me, for the first time, I was like, damn.
Like I'm home?
Huh?
Like I'm home or what?
Like I'm home. Just that sense, just being in London, and that wasn't even my destination.
Oh, but you were in London?
I was in London.
On your way to Ghana?
Yeah, the Heathrow Airport in London. And just hearing people speak my language, I was like, damn, I'm really going home. But like even just being here and hearing people speak my language.
It's just like there.
It's just a different feeling that you can't really explain, because I understood what they were talking about. It wasn't English. was a different dialect, Ghana and Twi. Both, communities around me were speaking it, and I was just like, damn. Like,
do you feel like the language and how it translates is different? Like you're saying different things?
Yeah.
That's so. This is why I want to like talk about this stuff, because there's like a whole different like culture, whole different like meaning, stories. Mm-hmm. You might be living a completely different reality. Almost.
Yeah. Language is powerful. And I think that was the time when I realized for myself that I need to surround myself with more Ghanaians around here in the States, and then go back as often as much as I can, because when I went back, I realized that I was losing the language, because there were things that my uncle had to tell me, and I was like, oh yeah, I know that, but because I don't speak it so often here, I realized that language was dissipating from my mind.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you see if there's anyone if there's anyone like talking to us on the Instagram stream?
Asking questions.
Just in case anyone's up on Instagram. I also want to check over here. Ryan and Candace. Okay.
You can pull your chair.
Yeah, you could sit wherever. I just wanted to see nothing up there. No. All right. Well, this is KID Astronaut episode 4 podcast. I mean, usually it's people just watch, and I think that's cool too. I guess what is one of the, like, speaking from your Ghanaian side, like, what is one of the things that you feel differentiates you from American, how you present here?
Yeah. I think language is one for sure. And then the other is, I'd say values. You know what I'm saying? I think, Ghana itself is like a very collectivistic nation. Okay. It's very much family oriented. The aspect, I think when I grew up here, the aspect of neighborhood and knowing your neighbors, boring, salt, and all of that was like prevalent. And then as time has gone, you don't really see that anymore with, racial divides and everything, and gentrification and, communities being separated. But that aspect for me is still a part of who I am. And so, when I think about my friend circle, we're all like very, very close. It's nothing superficial. Like, we are family. And like when people see us together and like how we hang out, how we make decisions, it's like, wow, like we are family. You know what I'm saying? We make decisions together. And so I think that's something that differentiates me. It's like that aspect of values, because I don't see that in a lot. When I even interact with some of my American friends, like just seeing how decisions are made, I was like, yo, like that's your family, and the fact that some people don't really think about decisions and how, our family is impacted. I think that's something that differentiates me, because like my brother and I, we always make decisions together.
And do you like just spend that time like talking and communicating? Like,
just talking and communicating.
Do you guys like get into arguments, and are you able to work through them, or is it more just like, we got it, we're on the same page all the time?
Oh yeah, families always are gonna go through disagreements. You know what I'm saying? We're always gonna go through disagreements, but I think a lot of times, like, what's the root of disagreement? How can we move past it? And some people don't spend time really getting to that. And so I think for me, that's hard sometimes, even when you have issues with friends, because a lot of times you want to just sit down and just hash it out like brothers. But like, not everyone has that same value.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I know. I've been in situations where I feel like this could be easier if we just talk about it. How do you feel when people are like, can you, like, what's the language that you speak in Ghana?
I speak Ghana, but I understand Twi, which is the other one.
Okay. How do you feel when people like ask you to speak in that language? Like, does it offend you?
It not always. It kind of it depends though. It's like what's the purpose?
Well, I want to know right now.
Yeah.
I'm asking because number one, like, I would like to know what that language sounds like.
Yeah.
And number two, if you're okay, just give a shout out to Ghanaian people. I don't know. Do you feel comfortable with that?
To give a shout out?
Yeah. I don't want to exploit your language, I just my purpose is like, I do want to hear what it sounds like. I think language is awesome and important if you feel comfortable.
Yeah. So let's see, a shout out, I could say, okay, Ghanaian said niyo jamimito madanyashin for no fano ni nyefeami for in la la ke nibi ni fio ye bie.
Okay.
And so pretty much I just said to all my Ghanaians out there, I want to thank you for all your support, for everything you've done for me and my music and everything you give to me.
What does the future of Ghana look like in your perspective, and how do you carry that mantle throughout all the work you do here in America even?
I think the future of Ghana is bright. It's very, very bright because once in a while I'm always seeing all these articles, not only for Ghana but like just Africa, about how Africa is the destination. Because though a lot of our wealth is being depleted, there's still so much wealth for the continent, and Ghana itself is kind of leading the way in being one of the African countries that has a high economy and a booming economy, and I don't think you know this, but there's now a industry in Ghana where a company in Ghana is now, kind of like how we have Ford and Toyota and all of that. There's a country in Ghana that's building their own cars, and so the industry over there is just booming. And so, like my brother and I were talking, is that we got to find a way to start building revenue there and contributing to the economy there, because it's booming and we don't want to miss out on that. Like real estate right now is a huge thing in Ghana because there's so much land, and the country itself, land infrastructure is developing. To the point, like I said, where every time I go, there's like new malls being built and new houses and everything. And so it's amazing. The future is bright, and everyone should find a way to take advantage of it and connect with friends like myself and learn about it and figure out how you can get involved there.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do you feel, because you posted something like the French president was being talked to by, I believe it was like the Ghanaian president.
Yep.
And he's like, African people need our own resources, and we shouldn't always be relying on European powers. And I think we're still kind of, I talk about it very openly and saying, like, I think, if Africa has been colonized, like even the fact that we call it Africa, to me, is colonization. So in what ways, briefly, or you can expand, but I mean, does that affect you? Do you see that perspective? Because a lot of people, I feel like, brush over that.
Yeah, I do see that perspective, and it's one that like really, really goes deep, because so many African countries were colonized, and as a result of their freedoms, treaties were made, and those treaties are still.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Africa had treaties.
Yeah, there's still treaties. Yeah, treaties for a lot of things in all the different countries, And so, to the one video that you're talking about is that I've never seen a video like that, and I've never seen a leader really step up to some of the countries that feel like we owe debt to them.
Right.
Like, why would we owe debt when you colonized us?
Right.
And we have,
There's
what I'm
also
saying?
like the museum issue.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
These are our pieces, like Belgium's like, we took these, we're taking care of them. Like, no, you stole them.
You stole them, yeah. And so it's like, why?
So like that's what gets me so frustrated, because it's like the gaslighting technique, where it's like, this isn't happening, but it is.
It's happening.
It's just like, and then you get angry, and then you seem like you're the bad person.
Yep.
Like, how do we get out of that corner?
Yeah. So I think, going back to that video, it's powerful for a leader to acknowledge, saying that we as Africans or as a nation need to get to the point where we're not depending on you. We have our own resources. We know how to develop them, right? But with politics and corruption and all of that, there's so many layers of that need to be addressed within the African continent, within the specific countries itself. So for a leader to come out and say that in a press conference to the French president is pretty powerful, and for me, I think that needs
he's
to...
He's speaking truth.
He's speaking
and
truth.
Just be truthful.
Yeah, and so I think more leaders need to recognize that and kind of combine and collaborate to figure out how can we get Africa to a place where we can benefit and other countries won't benefit, And like,
is it that other countries won't benefit? Like, do you think that's...
Other countries can benefit, but right now we're not benefiting. Other countries are stealing from us, And so, like, my uncle's like really versed in history, and so my uncle was telling me a few years when I went back, because I was telling my uncle, I was like, how is it that, when I go to the whole region of Ghana, for example, there's so many textile, there's factories that are just sitting there. And it's just like a museum, not being used at this point. And so my uncle was telling me about the history between, Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president who was educating in the United States. And so he had, and you probably heard about this before, but he had a vision to make Africa one nation, one president, kind of like the United States, where all our different countries would be states. And his vision was kind of like we know right now that each of these countries are known for resources. You know what I'm saying? And so why don't we have one African union where we control our own wealth for our continent? If that would have happened, Africa would be the strongest nation.
How do you feel about that?
I think that should be the future.
I've seen like Ethiopia and Eritrea coming together. I know that they're making like a universal African dollar. So I see those things starting to happen. So I feel like we're on our way.
We're on our way, but it's like all the African continents needs to be on the same page about that.
Yeah, and I think we will.
Yeah.
Even like the American side of that, like I hope that diaspora is like even just one piece of creating those, because I guess like the alternative looks like this, like the alternative looks like this conversation that needs to be had. Yeah. And then it's just like, okay, let's collectively turn that dial.
Yeah. It's the future, and it'll take a while, and
maybe.
The challenge is when you look at Africa itself, there's so much culture.
So many diverse cultures.
So many diverse cultures.
Which is okay.
It is okay.
But I think if we were like, all right, we still are a collective people,
Yeah.
And then we can explore how those diversities look within our ranges, and also like support for each other as well. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something that, it will take time, but, just to allude back to that video, I was happy and proud to see an African president stepping up and admitting it and saying what most would not admit for fears of whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Let me go check this music real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. I need to get like I'll get somebody else to run these sessions too, that'd be fun. Alright, coming back in 5, 4, 3, 2. Any Ghanaian artists I can check out? Anyone that you're really feeling?
There's so many. I think, Sarkodie is probably like the biggest one, just because he's been doing a lot of things around the States and collaborating with a lot of artists out here, and so he'll probably be a really, really good one to check out. Edom is probably a good one to check out as well. It's more kind of like an R&B, but we don't call R&B R&B.
What do you call it?
There's hip life, Afrobeats is probably it's the popular one right now, but hip life is what we call it.
Okay.
Hip life, yeah.
Such a big world, man. Like really, the more I think about it, I'm just like I do want to ask questions and like just learn more about the culture of things, because when you dig past that layer, it's like we are the same, but we also have so many differences.
Yeah, so many differences. Yeah. And I think as artists, like you would probably get influenced a lot if you listen to, a lot of Ghanaian music or, Afro-punk or whatever, right? And so as artists, it can influence what we do if we expose ourselves to, what's out there. A lot of people tell me that, my music is more well known in Europe, and I have fans in Europe, and everyone tells me to move to Europe, and you know, it's great. It's great to have fans and know that the Europeans are digging my music, and I love to have the finance to go out there and promote like you're about to do. But it can influence what we do and create different sounds that people around the world are going to like.
Yeah, man, that's the goal. But all right, man. Well, thank you very much for being a guest on my podcast today. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about?
You know, in the coming year, I'm about to release, you know, one of my biggest projects. I have 4 projects to release, but one of them does go back to my More Than Music platform. But it's called my Transitions EP. It's a 3-song EP. But what I've done is created a music video that's kind of like a 3-series movie. So you have to watch all 3 to know what's going on. And so the video follows 3 different songs, follows the same family. Video 1 tells the story about a mom and dad. Video 2 tells the story about the son and the daughter within the family. And then video 3 tells the story about the dad. But all 3 stories are conjoined. And so you see similar scenes within, you know, one video, second video, third video. They're all like conjoined. It's a huge production. I've been working on it since 2016.
Wow. And have you filmed it all?
Yeah. Wow. We're about to release it in the coming year. And so, you know, I want to mention that for people to look out for that. Follow me. I've been sharing snippets here and there on my social media, and I'm excited to release the songs and also just to release the videos to the public.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mawule. I'll put your links up and everything, and people will be able to find you. So
thank you.
Thank you for being here. That is KID Astronaut episode